Who was the worst bully in your school, and how did you get revenge on him? I had this classmate who was an absolute diva. He would sashay into class and act like he was the boss, dictate who sat where, and just aggressively hit on the popular guys in class. He was our teacher's nephew and thought that entitled him to authority in the classroom. He was well behaved around parents and teachers, but to a lot of us he was an all-around headache. I was enemy number one just because I was well liked and I could sing a couple notes higher than he could. He made it his mission to see me die socially. If I got good grades, he would accuse me of cheating. If I had a little extra money for recess, he'd buy a whole bunch of snacks just so I couldn't actually get anything. All the while he flaunted how rich he was, how smart he was, how he didn't stink like I did. Funny how one bad day with diarrhea can just stick with you all your primary school life. I ended up snapping when he spread around a rumor that he had seen me kissing my younger sister. This came totally out of the blue, but I tried to ignore it at first. He took it a step further though, and one day before class started, he used a Sharpie to write sister kisser on my desk. So what did I do in return? So I threw that desk. He just Sharpied on at him, of course. But I didn't stop there. I took his bag off him and threw his bag at him. I took out my calculator and threw that at him. I ended up throwing my chair at him too. Anything I could get my hands on was flung at him. I ran towards him, itching to tear him a new one. All the other kids watched this spectacle unfold as no one was sure what to do. To be honest, I blanked. All I remember after was that he had a black eye and several scratch marks on his arm. A minute later the teacher, his uncle, came into the class to see a shell-shocked and crying nephew, really quiet students glaring in my direction, and me still seething but obviously scared that he might use his teaching clout to have me expelled and barred entry to any other school. 9-year-old me was really dumb. He walked in and had his nephew and I clean up the mess we made. He walked to his desk and sat down, his eyes never leaving the two of us. My cheeks burned in anger. That Friday my parents were called in after school. The teacher explained the fight between us and everything else that transpired. He then turned to us and asked us to tell our side of the story. He went first and spun a tale of a deranged classmate who attacked the defenseless, unprovoking queen that he was. I bit my tongue as he said this, my parents taking in what he said, saying nothing. When it came to my turn, I slowly recounted the true events. I explained that I was livid, that he dared to go after me and say all those things. My mother looked at both of us and said, "Okay, so we've heard from both sides. Now, are you telling me the truth?" I nodded and stared at the floor like the linoleum was the most interesting thing in the universe. She asked the same of Diva, who also replied in the affirmative. "Well, the two of you are telling me two conflicting stories. So here's what we'll do. We'll call in your classmates still waiting to be picked up and ask them what truly happened." And that's what they did. 5 kids walked into the room and my heart sank. They were his crew. They started to reply in affirmative to his outlandish claims and my parents listened in silence. An important side note that I just have to add in was that both of my parents are in the military and they had come back from a meeting where they had to wear their uniforms. Uniforms that they both really looked intimidating in. What didn't help their case was that whenever the other kid's story deviated from mine, my dad seemed to sniff it out and would just interrupt to ask the rather terrified 10 to 12-year-olds if that was really what happened. After the third time this happened, my mother asked my dad to leave it to her. During this entire meeting, my parents showed no emotion, speaking to us with a smooth, reserved tone. Eventually she got the truth out of them, thanked them for their honesty and asked them to leave. After the last had left, our teacher got up and closed the door, and my mother turned her full attention towards Diva. Their conversation went something like this. "M, why did you lie to us, Diva?" "D, I didn't." "M, I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't like lying. It's pointless. I've never intentionally lied because it's a useless endeavor. There is a God watching over us and under him the truth is always revealed. I've never lied to my children, so I never expect them to lie to me." "Where are your parents?" "D, my father is in his village, and my mother is in another city with the rest of my family." "M, who looks after you?" "D, my uncle M. And did you think of what kind of position you're putting him in because of your actions? You know, I had to calm my husband down when we were on our way here. He was planning on beating the two of you until the truth came out." D, a panicked look forms on both my teacher and Diva. "M, if we were as horrible as you said we were, I would probably have let my husband do as he pleased. But I didn't. Do you understand why?" D, tears begin to well up. "No, M.